Good evening and welcome. You found your way here tonight, perhaps ready to rest, perhaps simply curious, and perhaps somewhere in between, where the mind is still alert, but the body is growing heavy with the thought of sleep. So before we begin, let's set the scene together. Wherever you are, let your body settle into stillness. Notice the weight of your blanket, or the gentle touch of the air in the room. Allow your shoulders to soften, your breath to slow. Tonight there's no rush, no list of tasks, no heavy thoughts to chase, just the quiet rhythm of a story about dreams. Because for as long as humans have existed, we have dreamed. Each night, behind closed eyes, the mind creates scenes that feel real, yet dissolve like mist in the morning sun. And across thousands of years, across every land and every culture, people have asked the same question. Why do humans dream? The answer is not a single one, but many. It is part science, part history, part memory, part imagination. And tonight, we'll explore these threads in the calmest of ways, letting them weave together into a tapestry that is less about solutions and more about gentle wonder. But first, if you enjoy these sleepy stories, please give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and comment below telling us which country you are watching from. Your support helps us continue creating more calming bedtime histories for you. So, let us begin. When you drift into sleep, the body grows still, but the mind does not switch off. Instead, it travels. It paints. It remembers. It invents. Dreams arrive in flashes of story, in fragments of feeling, in shapes and voices that may never have existed outside of your imagination. For scientists, this strange nightly theater has long been a mystery. But long before science began to measure and record, people already had explanations. In ancient times, dreams were thought to be messages from the gods or whispers from the spirits of ancestors. Some saw them as warnings, others as gifts, some simply as the natural work of a resting mind. The truth is both older and quieter. Dreaming seems to be a universal part of being human. No matter the century, no matter the place, people closed their eyes and entered that hidden world. And just as people lived differently in the waking world, so too did they interpret their dreams in unique ways. In the stillness of ancient Egypt, the quiet courtyards of Greece, the rolling steppes of Central Asia, the silent monasteries of medieval Europe, all shared in the nightly habit of dreaming. From a scientific view, sleep itself is a cycle. Throughout the night, you drift through stages. In some, your body is heavy and deeply resting. In others, the brain becomes active, almost as if awake. It is in these lighter stages, often called REM sleep, short for rapid eye movement, that most dreams unfold. During REM sleep, the eyes flicker beneath closed lids, as though watching invisible scenes. The breathing grows uneven, the heart beats a little faster, yet the body itself is paralyzed, still and safe. Within the skull, the brain lights up, weaving together pieces of memory, emotion, and imagination. This is why dreams often feel like patchwork. Familiar place mixed with a stranger's face. Memory blended with a story that never happened. The brain is sorting, connecting, and creating. And yet, in the moment of dreaming, it feels as real as waking life. For ancient dreamers, this strangeness was no less familiar. Imagine a farmer in Mesopotamia, thousands of years ago, waking with the memory of speaking to a god beneath a tree, or a monk in medieval France, recalling the feeling of flying across a cathedral rooftop. Without science to explain brainwaves or sleep cycles, they turned to meaning instead. A dream was a message, not a mechanism. In the sands of Egypt, more than 3,000 years ago, people believed dreams were doors to the divine. They even wrote manuals known as dream books, which listed possible visions and their interpretations. If you dreamed of drinking cool water, it meant good health was near. If you dreamed of losing teeth, it was a sign of misfortune. These dream books were kept on papyrus scrolls, stored carefully in temples. To dream was not only to rest, but to receive guidance from the gods. In ancient Greece, 2 dreams carried meaning. Physicians like Hippocrates thought they reflected the body's health. If a patient dreamed of heaviness or of fire, it might suggest an imbalance in the body's humors. Meanwhile, philosophers like Aristotle wondered if dreams were simply the mind's natural way of replaying sensations from the day. Even then, the question lingered. Are dreams meaningful messages, or just the echoes of daily life? Far to the east in China, dreams were described as journeys of the soul. Taoist writings suggested that in sleep, the spirit could wander beyond the body, meeting with others in distant realms. A dream could be a simple tale, or it could be a spiritual adventure. And in every corner of the earth, from the Americas to Africa, people wove dreams into the fabric of daily life. Some tribes used them as guidance for hunts, travels, or rituals. Others saw them as playful, harmless visions. The act of dreaming was always present, always human, always a part of the night. Today, when we drift to sleep, most of our dreams are forgotten. Within minutes of waking, the details slip away, vivid image dissolves like mist. A conversation vanishes. Sometimes only a single detail lingers. A color, a word, a face. Scientists believe this forgetting is natural. The brain does not need to hold on to every dream, only what is useful. And so, night after night, we live whole other lives in our minds, most of which we will never remember. There's something soothing about that thought. The idea that while you sleep, the mind is busy painting entire worlds, soft as candlelight, meant only for you, and meant only for the moment. Ephemeral, private, unrecorded. Dreams are one of the rarest things in human life, experiences that exist fully, only to dissolve. And yet, they bind us together. Whether remembered or forgotten, they are part of being human. And so tonight, as you listen, you might begin to notice your own body becoming heavier, softer, more relaxed. Perhaps your breathing has slowed, your eyes are growing heavier, and your mind is floating gently between my words and your own thoughts. This too is part of the rhythm of dreaming, that gentle passage from one state of being to another. We have only just begun to wander through the history of dreams, but already you may feel the pull of sleep. That's perfectly fine. You don't need to stay awake for every detail. Story will carry you, even if you drift away. Just as dreams come and go, you can allow yourself to come and go, floating in and out of this quiet narration. So let us drift further. Into the ancient world, where the line between waking and dreaming was softer than we might imagine today. Picture a quiet chamber, thousands of years ago. Oil lamps flicker against stone walls. It's outside the desert is cool and silent beneath the stars. A priest of ancient Egypt leans over a scroll of papyrus, carefully tracing lines of ink. These scrolls contained what were known as dream books, delicate collections of visions and their meanings. If someone dreamed of sailing down the Nile, it might be taken as a sign of safe passage, a blessing for journeys ahead. If one dreamed of eating bread, it could be interpreted as an omen of wealth or abundance. And if a dream contained unsettling images of storms or of falling, then the priest might warn the dreamer to be cautious in the coming days. Dreams in this way were woven directly into daily choices. They were not private and fleeting, but shared, spoken aloud, recorded in ink, passed from one generation to the next. The act of dreaming was, in their eyes, a conversation with the gods themselves. Now imagine the cool air of ancient Greece. Marble columns rise against a pale sky. Birds circle above as worshippers climb the steps of a temple. Here, dreams were not only interpreted, they were sought out. In the healing temples dedicated to Asclepius, the god of medicine, people would come to sleep. They would purify themselves with baths, offer sacrifices, and then lie down on mats within the temple walls, hoping to receive a healing dream. This practice was called incubation. During the night, many believed the god himself would appear in dreams, offering cures, remedies, or guidance. The next morning, priests would gather the dreamers and listen carefully. What had they seen? Whom had they spoken with? What words or images lingered? In these quiet rituals, dreams became both medicine and mystery. A simple night's sleep became a doorway to healing. Far beyond Greece and Egypt, the idea of dreams as messages was nearly universal. In Mesopotamia, clay tablets from over 4,000 years ago described kings consulting dream interpreters before going to war. A favorable dream might be seen as divine approval, a troubling one as a warning to delay. Among indigenous peoples across the Americas, dreams often carried deep personal and spiritual meaning. Some tribes believed that dreams connected the dreamer to the wider spirit world. In certain traditions, young people would even seek special dreams as part of coming-of-age rituals. To dream vividly was to be touched by something beyond the ordinary. And in medieval Europe, dreams were sometimes viewed with suspicion. While some monks recorded them carefully, others worried they might be tricks, illusions sent by darker forces. Even so, the fascination remained. Whether as visions from heaven or whispers of temptation, dreams could not be ignored. They were simply too powerful, too strange, too deeply woven into the experience of being human. If we step gently into the realm of science again, we see that many of these old beliefs carried a thread of truth hidden beneath their symbols. For example, dreams often reflect the concerns of daily life, just as ancient interpreters believed. If a farmer dreamt of crops or a soldier of battle, it was not because the gods placed those images there, but because the brain was replaying what mattered most. The human brain, when asleep, continues to sort and file memories, reviews the day's events, strengthening some, discarding others. In this quiet work, images resurface in ways that feel both familiar and strange. A friend's face appears in a new setting. A street you once walked seems to stretch endlessly. A conversation repeats with words you never spoke. Scientists now believe that one of the main purposes of dreaming is to help the brain make sense of experience, organizing, tidying, clearing space for new memories to grow. In this sense, dreams really are messages, though not from the gods, but from your own mind. In many cultures, dreams were not kept secret the way they often are today. They were shared each morning, spoken aloud as naturally as telling what one had for breakfast. Families gathered and described their visions. Communities listened, sometimes laughing at the odd details, sometimes taking them with utmost seriousness. Among the Iroquois people, dreams were even considered obligations. If you dreamed of receiving a gift, someone in the community might feel responsible to fulfill it. If you dreamed of an event, the group might act to bring it about. Dreams, then, shaped real actions. Even in ancient Rome, there are records of friends and family exchanging dreams in the morning. Analyzing them with the same curiosity we might reserve for a story or a puzzle, well, dreams were not simply forgotten upon waking. They lived on in conversation and ritual, in the flow of daily life. Today we tend to let them fade quietly. Perhaps you've had mornings where a dream lingers only faintly, like the outline of a shadow slipping further away with each passing breath. But in the quiet of ancient households, those moments were treasured, drawn into the circle of family and meaning. If you've ever woken from a dream and wondered why the images felt so strange, you are not alone. From the earliest records to modern psychology, people have tried to decode the language of dreams. Why do we see symbols, like doors, animals, or flights through the air, instead of straightforward stories? One idea is that dreams speak in a language of metaphor. The mind may be too complex, too layered, to tell us directly what it is processing. Instead, it paints images that stand in for feelings. A locked door might symbolize a challenge, a vast open sky, a freedom waiting to be claimed. This symbolic thinking has been part of human tradition for centuries. Ancient dream books listed their symbols carefully. Later, thinkers like Freud and Jung carried this into modern psychology, suggesting that dreams reveal hidden parts of ourselves. And yet, even with all these interpretations, the truth remains soft and elusive. A dream may hold meaning, or it may simply be the mind wandering through its own landscapes. Perhaps that is the gentle beauty of dreams. They resist certainty. They invite reflection, but never demand an answer. As you listen now, you may notice your own mind beginning to wander, much like a dream itself. Perhaps my words are weaving together with your thoughts, forming soft images. A temple, a desert, a quiet chamber filled with lamplight. And as your body grows heavier, you may allow yourself to drift in and out, as dreamers always have, across time. For tonight, you need not solve the mystery of why humans dream. It is enough to know that the question itself is ancient, carried gently through the centuries, like a candle passed from hand to hand. And soon as we move deeper, we look more closely at how scientists began to measure dreams, how modern tools tried to capture what has always slipped like water through the fingers. But for now, let the story rest quietly in your thoughts, like a stone at the bottom of a clear pool. So far, we've drifted through temples and scrolls, through rituals and quiet households where dreams were shared like morning bread. But as centuries passed, a new way of looking at dreams began to emerge. a way rooted not in gods or symbols, but in careful observation, in writing, and eventually in science. Imagine the slow passage of time into the Enlightenment, when thinkers and physicians began to study the body more closely. The heart, the lungs, the blood, all these were slowly mapped and understood. And with this growing curiosity came a question. What happens to the brain when we sleep? At first, the answers were humble. Sleep itself was still a mystery, and dreams even more so. Physicians noted that dreams often seemed connected to the health of the body. A fever, for instance, might bring vivid, unsettling visions. Hunger might bring dreams of food. These quiet observations suggested that the body and the mind were never fully separate, even in slumber. In the 17th and 18th centuries, journals and diaries became popular. Many people, scholars, philosophers, even ordinary townsfolk, began recording their dreams in writing. Some kept whole notebooks filled with nightly visions. Others wrote only when a dream felt unusual or worth remembering. These early dream journals served two purposes. For some, they were practical, a way to track patterns in health or mood. For others, they were spiritual, a private conversation with the self. But most of all, they became one of the first ways people tried to capture dreams before they dissolved at dawn. If you've ever written down a dream upon waking, you know the fragile quality of those words. A dream of flying might become only a sentence on the page, stripped of its vivid color. A dream of a long-lost friend might shrink into a line or two, missing the feeling that lingered in the night. Still, these early dreamers persisted. They sensed that by writing dreams, one might come closer to understanding them. By the 19th century, the study of the mind itself began to take shape. Psychology was still young, but already thinkers wondered what dreams could reveal. The mind was like an iceberg with much hidden beneath the surface. And perhaps dreams were little windows into that hidden world. Sigmund Freud, writing in the late 1800s, famously called dreams the royal road to the unconscious. In his soft-lit study in Vienna, he listened as patients described their strange visions of staircases, of trains, of endless rooms filled with doors. Freud believed these images were not random, but coded reflections of hidden wishes and fears. Later, Carl Jung expanded this idea, suggesting that dreams connected not only to personal experiences, but also to something universal, shared language of symbols across all humanity. To Jung, dreams were a bridge, linking the individual to the great river of human imagination. And yet, even as these ideas blossomed, dreams remained elusive. They slipped between the fingers of analysis, never quite staying still long enough to be fully explained. It was only in the 20th century that science began to see dreams not only as stories, but as patterns in the brain itself. New machines allowed researchers to measure electrical activity in the sleeping mind. Tiny electrodes were placed on the scalp, tracing the slow waves of deep sleep and the lively bursts of REM sleep. At last, scientists could see what had only been imagined, the rhythms of the brain as it drifted into different stages of rest. They discovered that dreams seemed to cluster in REM, a stage where the mind was highly active, even while the body lay still. To the dreamer, this stage felt like another world. To the scientist, it looked like bursts of electrical energy dancing across the brain. The discovery was profound, but also deeply human. It showed that everyone, from the shepherd to the scholar, from the child to the elder, shared in these same nightly cycles. Dreams were not only personal mysteries, but universal patterns, written quietly in the language of the brain. During the world wars of the 20th century, dreams took on new layers of meaning. Soldiers reported vivid nightmares of the battlefield, carried with them long after the fighting ended. Doctors began to recognize that dreams could echo trauma, replaying painful experiences again and again. And yet, even amid the harshness of war, dreams sometimes offered comfort. Sailors crossing vast oceans described dreaming of home, of quiet kitchens, of warm meals waiting on familiar tables. In the darkest places, the mind carried lanterns of memory, flickers of peace. These accounts reminded scientists and physicians that dreams were not only strange or symbolic, they were also deeply tied to human emotion. They could soothe or they could unsettle, could help process grief, or they could carry hope like a small flame in the night. As science grew, researchers began to conduct soft but fascinating experiments. They gently woke volunteers during different stages of sleep, asking them to recall what they had been experiencing. When awakened from deep, dreamless sleep, people often reported nothing but a heavy fog. But when awakened during REM sleep, their words tumbled out in colorful detail. Stories of flying, of speaking, of running, of singing. These experiments confirmed what people had always sensed, that dreams are vivid, emotional, and often strange. And yet, they also confirmed how fragile dreams are. Even when asked immediately, dreamers often struggled to put their visions into words. The images faded, the feelings slipped away, the sentences grew halting and incomplete. It seemed that dreams resisted capture, no matter how carefully science tried. Even now, after decades of study, the purpose of dreams is not fully certain. Are they simply the brain's way of clearing clutter, like sweeping a floor at the end of the day? Are they rehearsals, preparing us for challenges we may face? Are they simply byproducts, beautiful but unnecessary, like sparks rising from a fire? Each theory holds a piece of truth, but none the whole. And so, the mystery of dreaming remains. Not frustrating, but comforting in its way. For dreams remind us that not everything can be measured or explained. Some parts of life remain soft, elusive, and wonderfully human. And now, as you listen, perhaps you can imagine those early scientists in dimly lit labs, watching the flicker of machines as someone slept nearby. Perhaps you can picture Freud in his study, or a Greek dreamer lying on temple mats, waiting for a vision. All are connected across time by the same simple act, closing their eyes and stepping into the world of dreams. And you too are part of this long tradition. Each night, when you drift into sleep, you walk the same ancient path shared by countless dreamers before you. For as long as humans have dreamed, they have also told stories and dreams, with their strange logic and vivid imagery, have always found their way into art, sometimes directly, as when a poet describes a vision from sleep, sometimes indirectly, as when a painter gives form to feelings that words cannot hold. In this way, dreams belong not only to the night, but also to the day. They slip quietly into the fabric of culture. The dream is not a random vision, but a deliberate message woven into the larger story. Other poets describe dreams as journeys. A wanderer might fall asleep in a grove and find themselves transported to another realm. A lover might dream of their beloved, separated by distance but joined in visions of the night. These dream passages served not only as plot devices, but also as reflections of how real people thought about their own dreams. To dream was to travel, to receive guidance, or to glimpse what could not otherwise be seen. Centuries later in medieval Europe, entire works of literature were structured as dreams. Known as dream visions, these stories presented the narrator falling asleep and experiencing symbolic adventures. One of the most famous is the Divine Comedy by Dante Alighieri, where the poet journeys through the afterlife in a dreamlike state. Another, The Dream of the Rood, imagines a vision of the cross itself speaking, telling its story. These works were not meant to be taken literally, but as allegories, lessons and reflections hidden within the strange shapes of a dream. To the medieval mind, a dream was a perfect frame for wisdom. It gave permission for strangeness, for symbols, for scenes that could not exist in waking life. A dreamer might walk through heaven, or speak to animals, or see the future, all within the safe boundaries of sleep. Also appeared on canvas. Long before surrealism, painters occasionally included dream scenes in their works. In the Renaissance, artists sometimes painted biblical dreams, such as Joseph being visited by angels in the night. These were often shown with the dreamer sleeping peacefully in one corner, while the vision appeared above or beside them. A soft blending of two realities. Centuries later, in the 19th and 20th centuries, dream imagery bloomed in art movements like Romanticism and Surrealism. Painters like Francisco Goya, Henry Rousseau, and Salvador filled their canvases with dreamlike forms. Clocks melting, jungles appearing from nowhere, faces shifting into landscapes. These images did not try to explain dreams. Instead, they captured their essence. Strange, beautiful, sometimes unsettling, always otherworldly. Music, too, has long carried the language of dreams. Lullabies sung for centuries to soothe children into sleep often speak of dream journeys, floating boats, silver moons, gentle guardians watching over the night. Composers have also drawn inspiration from their own dreaming minds. Frédéric Chopin, Robert Schumann, and Claude Debussy all wrote pieces titled Nocturne or Reverie, works meant to evoke the drifting, weightless quality of sleep and dreaming. Listening to them is a little like listening to the sound of a dream itself, soft, slow, shifting like clouds. While great poets and artists wove dreams into their creations, ordinary people lived with dreams in quieter ways. A villager in medieval England might wake from a strange dream and mention it to neighbors at the well. A farmer in China might share a dream with family before breakfast, wondering if it carried meaning. A mother might comfort her child by telling them a dream was simply a story of the night, nothing to fear. These small exchanges remind us that dreams were not always grand or mystical. They were woven into daily rhythms, acknowledged, and then gently set aside, like morning dew evaporating from the grass. A vision of a scientist bent over a creature he had assembled. Others, like the chemist August, reported dreaming of a snake biting its own tail, a symbol that helped him imagine the ring-like structure of the benzene molecule. These stories remind us that dreams are not only passive experiences, but also sources of creativity. The mind at rest is still at work, combining fragments of memory and imagination into something new. And sometimes, what appears in the night lingers into the day, becoming art, invention, or discovery. What is perhaps most soothing of all is to realize that across time, across every culture and language, humans have dreamed in much the same way. A child in ancient Mesopotamia, a monk in a medieval cloister, an artist in Paris, a sailor on a lonely sea. All closed their eyes and saw visions. Some remembered them, some forgot, some wrote them down. Some painted them, but all shared in the same quiet mystery. Dreams are, in this sense, one of the most universal human experiences. They remind us that beneath the differences of daily life, we all walk the same shadowed pathways of the night. We will soon continue, exploring how modern researchers study dreams today, and how science tries to answer questions that poets and priests once asked long ago. But for now, let your breathing soften, your eyes grow heavier, and your thoughts move at their own gentle pace. By the early 20th century, curiosity about dreams had moved from temples and poems into the quiet halls of universities and research clinics. For the first time in history, people tried not just to describe dreams, but to measure them. Imagine a softly lit laboratory in the 1950s. The room is quiet, with only the hum of machines and the slow breathing of someone asleep. A researcher sits nearby, watching small instruments trace lines across paper. These are brain waves, recorded with delicate wires placed on the scalp. What the researchers discovered was extraordinary. During the night, the brain does not sleep in one continuous state. Instead, it moves through cycles. First comes light sleep, then deeper stages, where the body repairs and restores itself. But then, after a while, something surprising happens. The brain becomes active again. The eyes closed beneath the lids begin to dart rapidly from side to side. Breathing quickens, the body remains still, but inside the skull, Activity bursts like sparks. This stage was named REM sleep, short for rapid eye movement. And it is here scientists found that dreams are most vivid. These discoveries gave dreams a new kind of visibility. For the first time, people could point to a graph and say, here, in this moment, the person is dreaming. Did not capture the dream itself. No machine could do that. But it revealed the rhythm of dreaming as it unfolded through the night. Typically, a sleeper moves in cycles of about 90 minutes. Light sleep, deep sleep, then REM sleep, and then back again. Over the course of a night, the dreamer enters REM several times, each period growing longer toward morning. This is why you might sometimes wake with a dream fresh in your mind, because your last sleep cycle ended with a long stretch of REM. Even with all this measurement, the mystery of dreams remained. Machines could show when they happened, and how often, but not why. To learn more, scientists began to gently wake people during REM sleep, asking them to describe what they had just experienced. The results were colorful, filled with fragments of story. One person might say they had been running through a forest. Another might recall speaking with a friend who had long since passed away. Another might remember only an emotion, joy, or fear, or longing, without clear images at all. These early studies confirmed something dreamers had always known. Dreams are strange, emotional, and often fleeting. They also confirmed how fragile they are. Within moments of waking, even the most vivid details slipped away. Scientists sometimes found that if they waited even 5 minutes before asking, the dreamer could no longer recall much at all. This fading is natural. The brain does not store dreams as it does waking memories. Instead, they dissolve quickly, like chalk washed away by rain. With these observations came new theories. Some scientists suggested that dreams were a way for the brain to process memory, strengthening what was important and discarding what was not. Others thought dreams served as rehearsal, a way to practice situations and emotions safely, preparing for challenges ahead. Still others suggested that dreams were simply the byproduct of a busy brain, like sparks flying from a fire. No single answer has been proven, and perhaps that is part of the beauty. Dreams are both practical and mysterious. They help us learn, they help us heal, and they also remind us that not everything in the mind can be neatly explained. Modern research also noticed something else. Dreams are often more emotional than waking thoughts. They carry intensity, even if the story itself is strange. A dream may place you in a house you have never seen, with people you barely know, and yet you feel deep joy or sorrow or fear. Scientists believe this happens because parts of the brain linked to emotion are especially active during REM sleep. Meanwhile, the areas responsible for logic and control are quieter. The result is a world where feelings rise vividly, unrestrained by reason. This explains why dreams often feel powerful, even if they make little sense in the light of day. Not all dreams are gentle. Nightmares, the darker side of dreaming, have troubled people across history. They are vivid, often frightening, and they can linger long after waking. But even these unsettling dreams may serve a purpose. Some researchers suggest they help us confront fears in a safe space, allowing the mind to rehearse danger without real-world risk. For people who have lived through trauma, dreams can replay painful memories. Sometimes in distressing ways, yet even here, the mind may be trying to process what has happened, working through emotions that are too heavy for waking life. In recent years, therapists have even used dreams as part of healing, helping people reframe and soften their nightmares. Despite all the machines and studies, one truth remains. The dream itself, in all its richness, cannot be fully captured. No chart can hold the color of a dream. No measurement can contain the way it feels to fly or to hear the voice of someone you miss. Dreams, in this sense, remain private art, painted anew each night, fading with the dawn, carried quietly in the heart. And so, whether in a modern sleep lab or an ancient temple, the act of dreaming connects us all. The tools and explanations may change, but the experience itself remains the same. Each night, we step into a world that is both deeply personal and universally shared. Your own dreams tonight will be part of this long story. It will be yours alone, yet also part of something that has bound humans together since the beginning. As you listen, perhaps you can feel your own mind growing softer, like a room dimming as evening falls. My words may blend with your thoughts, just as dreams blend memory and imagination. That is the natural rhythm of rest. You need not follow every detail. You can let your awareness drift, returning when you wish, wandering when you must. For dreams themselves are like that. Wandering, flowing, never fixed. They do not demand attention, only gentle acceptance. And when you are ready, we will move further still into how people in the modern world continue to live with dreams, how they inspire art and science, how they bring comfort, and how they remind us that the mind never stops weaving its quiet stories. Even though scientists now measure brainwaves in stages of sleep, the mystery of dreaming still flows through daily life, just as it always has. People everywhere continue to wake with dreams on their minds. Some write them down in journals, others paint them, turning images into color and canvas. And many simply carry them quietly, like a secret melody remembered only for a while. Dreams slip naturally into art. Poets describe them as windows into hidden places. Painters often take inspiration from the strange shapes and colors that appear at night. The surrealist artists of the 20th century, for example, drew directly from dream imagery. They painted melting clocks, floating figures, and landscapes that felt both familiar and otherworldly. Pictures that seemed to capture the strange logic of dreams better than words ever could. Even music has been touched by dreams. Composers sometimes describe hearing melodies in their sleep, rising from nowhere and rushing to write them down before they vanished. Dreams, fleeting though they are, have left marks on culture that last far longer than the night. For ordinary people, dreams often bring small personal meaning. Someone might dream of a place they haven't visited in years and wake with a soft longing to return. Another person might dream of a relative who has passed away and feel comforted as though they had shared one more quiet conversation. Sometimes dreams feel like puzzles, mixing fragments of the day into new forms. Conversation, a passing thought, a memory from years ago. All of these may swirl together at night, forming a story that is both strange and familiar. When morning comes, the dream might be remembered with a smile, or perhaps with confusion, or sometimes forgotten entirely. This blending of memory and imagination is part of what makes dreams so gentle and universal. They belong to no one tradition, no one time period. They are simply part of being human. In recent decades, many people have returned to the habit of keeping dream journals. Beside the bed, a small notebook waits with a pen. When the dreamer wakes, they write down what they can recall, before the images dissolve. Simple practice often makes dreams easier to remember. Over time, patterns may emerge, certain places, recurring symbols, familiar feelings. For some, this becomes a kind of quiet self-reflection. For others, it is simply a way of honoring the mind's nightly stories, capturing what would otherwise be lost. Dream journals echo the clay tablets of Mesopotamia, or the scrolls of Egypt, where ancient dreamers did much the same. In this way, a person with a notebook in the 21st century joins a chain that stretches back thousands of years. Beyond journals, dreams continue to inspire discovery. Some inventors have credited dreams with sudden insights, a problem solved overnight, an idea appearing fully formed. Writers, too, sometimes describe dreams as gifts, handing them stories to be polished in the daylight. Even when not directly inspiring, dreams can stir the imagination. A fragment of a scene, a feeling that lingers, these can spark thoughts that shape creativity in subtle ways. In this sense, dreaming and waking life form a partnership. One gathers experience, the other reshapes it into something new. Different cultures continue to view dreams in unique ways. In some traditions, they are still seen as messages, not necessarily from gods as in ancient times, but from the deeper self. In others, dreams are thought to carry connections to ancestors, reminding people of family and history. Even in the most modern of cities, surrounded by glowing screens and tall buildings, people still wake with a dream fresh in their mind and wonder what it might mean. The setting has changed, but the question remains the same. One of the more curious practices of the modern age is lucid dreaming, the experience of becoming aware. While still in the dream that you are dreaming, some people find that in these rare moments they can shape the dream, choosing to fly, or to walk through imagined places, or to simply pause and look around. Lucid dreaming has fascinated researchers and dreamers alike. Some practice techniques to make it more likely: reality checks during the day, dream journaling, and gentle reminders before sleep. For many, it becomes a playful exploration of the mind, a chance to wander freely in a world created by the self. And yet, even lucid dreams do not always last. Often the moment of recognition is fleeting, and the dream soon dissolves. But the experience can linger in memory, leaving a sense of wonder at the vastness of the inner world. Perhaps one of the most peaceful aspects of dreams is the way they blur the line between sleeping and waking. Sometimes on the edge of sleep, you may hear a voice that isn't there, or see an image that flickers and fades. These are called hypnagogic images, little dreamlike fragments that drift in as you fall asleep. In the morning, the reverse can happen. Hypnopompic images, brief, dreamlike moments as you awaken. These gentle borders remind us that dreaming and waking are not entirely separate. They touch, like waves meeting at the shore. And so, even in the modern age, with all its knowledge, dreams remain both familiar and mysterious. They are measured, studied, and recorded, yet still resist capture. They fade, yet they inspire. They frighten, yet they comfort. Each night, as the world grows quiet, the same timeless act continues. Humans close their eyes, breathe softly, and drift into the inner landscapes of the mind. The stories written there are invisible to anyone else, yet they shape us, leaving traces in the day that follows. Tonight, your own dreams will join this endless chain, a link in a story that stretches back to the first sleepers under the stars. For as long as people have dreamed, they have wondered what these nighttime stories mean. Some took them as direct messages from beyond, others saw them as riddles, to be solved carefully, and still others thought of them as reflections of the self, like a pond mirroring the face of the one who gazes into it. Philosophy and spirituality have long wrapped themselves around the subject of dreaming, turning it into a question not only of science, but of existence. In ancient Greece, philosophers debated dreams just as eagerly as they debated the stars, ethics, or the nature of the soul. Plato suggested that dreams revealed the hidden desires of the heart, unguarded by reason. In his view, while waking life is guided by rules and logic, dreams may show us the passions that lie beneath, rising like sparks in the dark. Aristotle, ever more practical, thought dreams might be natural echoes of daily life, the body processing sensations, the mind weaving fragments into stories. Yet he, too, admitted that dreams sometimes brought insight, as if the quiet of sleep opened doors closed during the day. These early thoughts may not align with modern science, but they show how deeply humans have always cared about the meanings hidden in sleep. Many spiritual traditions have linked dreams to the soul itself. Some imagine that in dreams, the soul could travel, stepping outside the body, wandering to faraway places and returning at dawn. In certain beliefs, the dream world was thought to be as real as the waking world, only different in texture. Just as a traveler might cross a river into another land, so too might the dreamer cross into another plane of existence each night. This idea has given comfort to many, suggesting that dreams are not meaningless illusions, but journeys that enrich the spirit. Others have seen dreams more simply as mirrors of the inner self. The mind, in its quiet hours, presents back to us what it has carried: worries, joys, hopes, and fears. This reflective view is gentle, neither mystical nor strictly scientific. It suggests that dreams are part of knowing oneself. Just as one might learn from listening closely to a friend, one might also learn from listening quietly to the patterns of one's dreams. In India, texts of philosophy and spirituality often spoke of dreams in relation to consciousness. The Upanishads, ancient writings on the nature of reality, describe dreaming as one of the states of the self, alongside waking and deep sleep. Here, dreams were not random, but part of the unfolding of consciousness itself. To dream was to touch a different mode of being, a reminder that the self is more vast than the daily waking world suggests. In Buddhism, dreams sometimes symbolize the illusory nature of reality. Just as dreams fade upon waking, so too may the world be seen as fleeting, ever-changing, and not entirely solid. In this way, dreams served as gentle teachers, showing the impermanence of all things. In Islamic culture, dreams held a respected place as well. Some were considered meaningful, offering guidance or insight. Others were thought to come from daily thoughts, or from the whisperings of the imagination. Classical scholars wrote about categories of dreams, describing those that carried truth, those that were reflections, and those that were merely empty shadows. This careful approach showed both respect and discernment, acknowledging that not all dreams should be taken the same way. Across centuries, people in the Islamic world shared dreams with scholars, family, and friends, weaving them into daily life as signs of the unseen, woven into the ordinary. In medieval Europe, where faith and daily life were closely bound, dreams often carried spiritual weight. Some monks recorded their dreams as lessons or warnings, treating them as if they were letters from heaven. Others cautioned against trusting them too much, reminding that dreams could also mislead. Yet even with caution, people remained fascinated. Dream books circulated, offering guides to interpretation. To dream of certain animals or certain places was said to carry specific meanings. Though we might see them as quaint today, they reveal how deeply people wanted to listen to the messages of the night. Beyond ordinary dreamers, some mystics described their dreams as visions of the divine. They spoke of meeting figures of light or traveling through vast landscapes of the spirit. These accounts were often written down, shared in communities, and treated as treasures of insight. For them, dreaming was not just a private experience, but a pathway into the deepest mysteries. Whether or not others believed their visions, the dreamers themselves often found great comfort and strength in them, shaping their lives in gentle but profound ways. Perhaps the most enduring philosophical question about dreams is this: how do we know we are awake? The Chinese philosopher Zhuangzi once dreamed he was a butterfly, fluttering freely. When he awoke, he wondered, was he Zhuangzi who had dreamed of being a butterfly, or was he a butterfly now, dreaming of being Zhuangzi? Centuries later, Descartes in Europe asked a similar question. Since dreams can feel real while we are in them, how can we be certain that waking life is not also a dream? For him, this question led to deeper thoughts about certainty, reality, and the foundations of knowledge itself. Even today, this question lingers quietly in the minds of many. When a dream feels vivid, when it leaves a trace upon waking, it can stir the same gentle wonder. What if the boundary is thinner than we think? What is striking, across cultures and centuries, is how steady the theme remains. People dream, and people wonder. Whether they see dreams as divine, as natural, as reflections, or as illusions, the sense of mystery continues. Even the most skeptical thinkers often admit that dreams carry a certain power. They move us, stir emotions, and leave marks upon memory. They may not always hold answers, but they remind us of questions too deep to ignore. And so, dreams continue to be not only nightly stories, but lifelong companions. Each dream links us to an ancient chain of seekers, all gazing inward with quiet curiosity, asking softly, why do we dream?